This podcast is amazeballs when it comes to NBA DFS. Most pods just tout how well they did and give such inconclusive advice, I come away more confused. Not with the DG Courtroom. It breaks down the slate and teaches you how to develop a lineup that fits what you play. I finally started winning since I found the judge and got away from sleepy grinders or roto trash. And the bailiff is great. Well, thank you for the review, Jax03. It's much appreciated and very apropos today because I was prepping the show. I had another podcast in the background. They spent the first 15 minutes patting themselves on the back, basically touting every pick they made yesterday was right. It made me irate, furious. My gavel's already thrown. I'm pumped up. Let's start the frickin' show. This episode of DG's Courtroom is sponsored by Draft, a daily fantasy app where your chances of winning are almost 3 times better than on FanDuel or DraftKings. On Draft, it's draft day every day. You can do a simple snake draft for one day whenever you want. Drafts take just minutes to complete. Download Draft now. Be sure to enter the promo code DFBPOD when you download to get a 100% deposit bonus. And with that, we are off. Welcome to the show for Thursday, March 16th, 2017. We have a 6-game slate for a Thursday, which is pretty sweet because normally Thursday is just the TNT games. Maybe the NBA throws us a bone. We get 3-4 games, but 6 games for a Thursday. That's beautiful. That's enough to play cash games and tournaments. So it should be a lot of fun. Wednesday was a glorious 10-game slate. Yet Tuesday sucked for the judge in many different ways. Wednesday was very nice. Got to make some nice money. And I heard from about at least a dozen of you on Twitter who made about over $1,000. So, a lot of people who are listening to the pod made some good money. Hopefully you were one of them. As I just mentioned at the top of the show, dear God, it's just mind-blowing to me, some of these other podcasts. And the one that I had on in the background, I'm not kidding. Their entire podcast was basically these two clowns. I shouldn't say clowns. These two guys, whatever. It was self-congratulating themselves on their glorious picks from the previous night. And then watching them do research during the podcast. It just mind-blowing. Half put me to sleep, half made me irate. But I am here. I am the host. I am the judge. I am Daniel Green. You can find me on Twitter at DanielAGreen1. Oh, God, man. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys realized yesterday or not. I think I explained it during the podcast. So I did half the podcast, right? And then the audio dropped because I record via Google Hangout. And the audio dropped, I'd say, after about 38 minutes of the podcast. And I didn't know until I was just about to post the podcast, like 5 in the morning. And luckily, someone made me aware of it because I was having another IT issue. The stuff that goes on behind the scenes is what drives me the most insane. If I could just hit the record button and do the podcast, that would be beautiful. But there's all this other stuff that goes on with doing a podcast, like the IT side of it and just other administrative stuff that takes so much time and just adds so much stress. And yesterday there were so many IT issues anyway. But once the audio dropped out, I had to re-record the entire second half of the podcast, which at like 7:30 a.m. So I got zero sleep going into the office. It was just a disaster. I was in a foul mood all day. But luckily there was still a podcast. And I think it worked out because a lot of us, we all made some good money. I'm just glad that that was over. But yeah, let's hope that. So the sad thing is, though, I'm still, for tonight's show, I made the vow to never record via Google Hangouts again. But here I am again on this show. I'm still using Google Hangouts. I want to switch to like a program like Audacity. But the problem is, when do I have the time to download that and check and figure out how it works? So I need to do that this weekend, I think. So hopefully this show, the audio will not cut out for no freaking reason. If it does, that would be a soul crusher for sure. Because I don't know if I could, do another re-record again. So let's all pray together that Google Hangouts will not destroy our dreams and crush the podcast today. Before we start the show, do 3 things for the judge. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. I want to start the show by reading glorious reviews. So let's get some new reviews up there on iTunes. And then send me a screenshot so I know there's some new ones up there. Be funny, be clever, be witty. I know you guys are talented people out there listening to the show. So don't put me to sleep like some other podcasts. Make it funny. So you can talk about the bailiff, talk about Magic Mountain, talk about whatever you want. So rate, review, subscribe. Also, when I tweet out the show, please retweet it out. We need to grow the audience. March is a brutal month for DFS. A lot of listeners go down because a lot of people have lost so much money. They're waiting for MLB. So, February was a glorious month for the Judge. March, we're trying to do as well, if not better than February. I'm not sure if that's possible, but simple things like giving me a retweet, that helps a lot. And other than also support the sponsor, download the app Draft, and when you do, use the promo code DFBPOD. All right, so let's talk about the Judges Chambers NCAA bracket that we're going to do. Now, we're going to start this a week from today. So March 23rd is when we're going to have the Judges Chambers bracket, head-to-head style bracket challenge. It's going to be on FanDuel and on DraftKings. But some of you still are not paying attention to the Judge. A lot of you are tweeting at me at Daniel A Green 1. That you want to be a part of this bracket. That's not the way to do it. You got to follow instructions. There's 3 simple things. Follow at DG Courtroom. That is not my own Twitter handle. I created a special one just for this bracket. So you got to follow at DG Courtroom on Twitter. Then tweet what Chambers bracket you want to play. Do you want to play the FanDuel head-to-head competition or the DraftKings head-to-head competition? Also, tweet your username for either DraftKings or FanDuel, whichever one you want to play. And then once you do that, I will set up the bracket, and then I will give you the more details will be to come. But right now I think we don't have enough to do. I think 64 people in each bracket. But we'll do however many people we get. That's what we'll do. If we have enough, the demand for 32 people in each, we'll do that. Obviously, I think FanDuel is going to be higher because it usually is than DraftKings. But if you want to be a part of it, remember, follow at DG Courtroom, tweet what bracket you want, FanDuel or DraftKings, and then tweet your username. If you disobey the judge's orders, you will not be a part of this glorious head-to-head competition, which I'm excited to see, because head-to-head, and this is if you do consultations with me, you hear me talk about what's the first thing if you play DFS, what's the first thing you have to figure out? Your skill set. And a head-to-head is a much different skill set than playing a tournament. It's a much different skill set than playing a 50-50. So it'll be cool playing Chambers, that's more of a tournament style. So someone out of the blue could come and dominate the head-to-heads. I have a couple guys who do this, who play DFS for a living, who solely only play really head-to-heads and cash games. But if you tell them to build a tournament lineup, they can't do it to save to save their lives. So it's a legitimate skill. Like I used to be when I first started playing. I'm just a better tournament player in general. So I struggled my first year. I could not really build a solid cash game. It took me a lot of time. I kept having to work at it, and then finally I got better at cash games and head-to-head games. All right, so Chambers for Wednesday. So what is Chambers, you may be asking? Chambers is just a glorious tournament that we run on FanDuel and DraftKings every day, where the best players in the land try to compete. Only had 2 of them on FanDuel, and on DraftKings I lowered it to the spots from 50 to 30, and it filled in super fast in like a minute or 2, I think, or something like that. So maybe I'll up it again on Thursday, although the NCAA tournament's starting, so I'm not sure what the demand is going to be for DFS. But the worst thing that we can have happen is the Chambers not to fill, because the problem is, like, before lineup lock. And as you guys know, I try to answer as many questions as I can. If you guys retweet enough, I'll try to do a 10-minute audio clip or video for you guys around 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing my own lineups. I also have hiding under my desk. My own boss is yelling at me if I'm still at the office. So the hour or 2 before lineup lock is pretty stressful. So it's hard for me to also be monitoring, is Chambers full? Is it not full? Basically, and having to keep opening up links or retweeting out links to people and DMing people. So that's this right now it's crazy. So I only had 2 Chambers on FanDuel on Wednesday, and then we had 1 on DraftKings, but only 30 people. So the winners. This is pretty remarkable. The same people who won on Tuesday on FanDuel won on Wednesday. That's never happened before, where the exact same duo has won each different Chambers, which is a pretty remarkable feat. Which I don't think there's any collusion going on. My guess would be both these guys, who are both really good players, are probably using the same site for research and probably are using the same projection system. But MG Fresh is having a nice little resurgence now. Took down another Chambers. He's currently the #1 ranked player. I'm waiting to release the new FanDuel power rankings until I do the brackets, because then you will see who are the top ranked players. That's why I really want to get the have we can like 64 people or so in the brackets. It'll be a lot of fun. But MG Fresh right now is currently the number 1 ranked player on FanDuel. Score of 328.4, and then MK Knutson 033 took down another Chambers. The exact same score, 328.4. It was actually a pretty high scoring night. There were a lot of Dream lovers. So I mean, I'm looking at my list right now, my Dream lovers and Dream killers sheet, and there's more Dream lovers than Dream killers. So which is a rarity. Doesn't seem right. How can that be possible? For DraftKings, Buzz F. Wow, Buzz F comes out of the blue. He's new to DFS this year. He's been struggling a little bit on DraftKings because if you've only been playing, like, first of all, if you're new to DFS, it's hard anyway. But if you only playing FanDuel, then you switch over to DraftKings. It's a whole new world out there. Pricing is different. You got Donkey Kong points for 3-pointers, for high fives, for patting someone on the back, for getting technicals. It's craziness. So congrats to Buzz F. Got his first DraftKings win with a score of 281. Gooey 10 took second, and then CM Fly 80 took third. Let's hop into everyone's favorite segment, an Emmy Award-winning segment. Actually, I don't know if it's an Emmy Award-winning segment. I know it was nominated. We'll see if it wins the Emmy. I gotta drink some water, man. By the way, it's only it's 4:28 Eastern in the morning, so another late start for the judge. All right, so Emmy Award-winning segment or Emmy-nominated segment. Dream killers and dream lovers. So, dream killers. How about Phoenix, huh? Pretty interesting what they're doing these days. Wow. So, I mean, now I'm like 99% sure this was after lineup lock, but then again, sometimes at like 4:30 in the morning, only a certain part of my brain shuts off. But Eric Bledsoe, they released the starting lineup, and Bledsoe was not in there. They started Tyler Ulis. They started Booker, who we'll get to him in a minute. Dear God, horrible shooting night for him. TJ Warren, who's great. Chris went nuts. And then I think they started at one big Haitian. No. They started Alex Len. Now I'm getting teams mixed up. That's Lobotomy for the guy from the Kings who went nuts. They still started Alex Len. But Bledsoe. And now I just learned right before the show, they're shutting down Bledsoe for the year. Bledsoe's 27 years old. I'm not even sure what is his injury. Like, he's been held out a couple games this year for rest. I didn't even know he's that banged up. It's a little bizarre. The 27-year-old is shutting him down for the last 15, 16 games of the year. But that's what happens when teams are tanking and doing weird things. So if you played Bledsoe, that you probably were pretty pissed. Even though the minutes, I mentioned this on the show yesterday, everything is trending down. That's why he's back at Magic Mountain. Everything was trending in the wrong direction with him. The minutes were down. His usage was down. Since the All-Star break, it's been bizarre. So him shutting down the season, obviously you played him, absolute freaking soul crusher. Just nothing. There's nothing worse than finding out one of your players is out after lineup block. My soul crusher was Kemba Walker. This entire freaking game, the Charlotte Hornets, and some of my good friends at the Almighty Baller Podcast Network, they do the Charlotte Hornets podcast. Thanks for the heads up, guys, because if you would have told me that the Hornets are going to do a no-show against the Pacers, we're coming off a back-to-back, I could have used that advice. Kemba has been so good since the All-Star break. Literally, if you would have given me a dart, and I could have thrown a dart at any point guard on the board, he's basically the only guy that put up an absolute dud on this slate. So he was a nightmare. Charlotte was a nightmare. They got blown out by Indiana. I mean, the game was close in the first half too. Kemba just stunk the entire game. I mean, literally, I'm watching the first quarter, and not to mention the greatest player of all time, Marvin Williams. Remember, he basically remembered, oh crap, I'm Marvin Williams. I better go back to sucking at basketball. So it just, you watching that first quarter, and they just had nothing there. And this is the problem with one of the reasons why NBA is so tough. I mean, the season is a grind, right? So I don't know if the guys were just tired. If they, Charlotte is just, mentally fatigued because they realize they're basically not going to make the playoffs at this point. It's a little unclear, but you think this would have been a good spot for them, catching Indiana coming off a bad loss to the Knicks the previous day. The other big problem with this game was the freaking pace. It was just so, Indiana won 98-77. I'm pretty sure at the half, it was like 42-40, 44-42 or something like that. Or maybe it was 42-42, or it was really low scoring. So obviously as I mentioned on the show yesterday, if there's a low-scoring game, you don't even have to look at the box score. You know the people who are going to suffer the most are going to be the point guards. And Kemba was an absolute mess on this game, a soul crusher, like 12 FanDuel points, something like that. It was just absolutely sickening. Not to mention Marvin Williams, another soul crusher, because his price was skyrocketed up to 6.5K. Even though you can attack Indiana power forwards, did not work on this slate. Everyone was a freaking disaster. Even Jeremy Lamb, he didn't work out. And FanDuel didn't kill your lineups, but on DraftKings it did it at his price. For Indiana, Paul George went nuts. Paul George was a dream lover. He played great. Thaddeus Young was a no-show. But Paul George, I think he had over 50 FanDuel points, and he was somewhat high owned. He was like 30% owned, which was pretty shocking to me. Other than that, let's see, Dream Killers, James Harden. I mean, this Houston Lakers game, this one Vegas got right. Houston just blitzed them. It actually was still relatively close, like early in the third quarter, and then Houston went on a massive run and just blitzed them. So they ended up winning 139-100, which, dear God. So that's a 239 over under. I think Vegas had it like a 236 over under. So Vegas was pretty close with that one. And the Lakers, it was an absolute freaking mess. If you played this game, you still may have won money. I did well because I played a lot of Randall. Fat Julius freaking Randall. He did great, but even he still got in foul trouble. I think sometimes he just imagines his defenders as like biscuits, and he just can't he can't stop licking his fingers and touching his players, and he can't stop fouling. He commits stupid fouls. In 29 minutes, he was 13 of 17. He had 32 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He was fantastic when he was in there. If he didn't get those 2 other fouls, I think he would have got, or those 4 fouls, I think he would have got 39 minutes because that's what Ingram and Clarkson got. If he could have got that, he would have had like 50, 60 FanDuel points. I think he ended up with a little over like 40. He was terrific. Brandon Ingram, for him and his price, he was great. He had close to 30 FanDuel points. And again, this is the one good thing about Ingram these days. And a lot of these young Lakers, now we'll get to a couple, it's not always, sunshines and rainbows, Zubac and Russell in a second. But for guys like Ingram, Luke Walton, I guess, and Magic Johnson, the new general manager as well, I guess, they will give Ingram 39 minutes regardless if they're down 50, if they're up 50, he's going to get a ton of minutes. That's why he's going to be a good play the rest of the year. It's a given. Like right now, for the rest of the year, we need to attack guys who we know are locks for minutes. And Ingram, he's a lock for minutes right now. Even with the tanking Lakers. I guess if he starts playing super well, maybe they scale back his minutes because they got to lose games. But right now, at 39 minutes, sign me up for him at his like 4K price tag. Now we'll see if his price goes up. I'm sure it will go up on DraftKings pretty fast. Jordan Clarkson was okay. He took 19 shots, 7 for 19, 18 points, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 rebounds. At his price, he was good. The problem on this slate was other guys around the same price just had much better nights. The guys like Rondo went absolutely nuts against Memphis. Rondo was terrific. Rondo was amazing. I watched that entire Bulls-Memphis game. Rondo was the only guy for the Bulls who showed up. Wade was a joke, and then Wade got injured late, and Wade could be out, could miss the rest of the year. He sprained his wrist. I have no idea what's going to happen there. Wade's looked so bad since the All-Star break. And Jimmy Butler is a Tin Man. I don't know what else to say. Or he's hurt. It's hard. I don't want to call Butler a Tin Man, but he's looks so passive on the court. He's not aggressive at all. And when the Bulls needed someone to step up, he was just non-existent. Rondo needed help, and the Bulls got a really bad. The Bulls need to win games. That was a bad loss to Memphis. And Memphis stinks, by the way. If you watch Memphis play, Memphis has Conley and Gasol, and that's it. The rest of their talent, there's none. Literally none. They put. Sometimes with Conley and Gasol on the court, the people that are on the court with them, like 55-year-old Vince Carter, JaMychal Green, Andrew Harrison, guys who just could not score to save their lives at this point. I guess you still have Zach Randolph, who's occasionally still good. But I was, not shocked, but I've watched Memphis play now a few times in the last couple of weeks, and just every time I watch them, I'm like, how are they winning any games? But it's literally all Conley and Gasol down the stretch. Conley and Gasol they made every important play in the fourth quarter of that game. Anyway, back to the Lakers though. So Zubac, it was a good play going into this slate. I don't regret playing him. He only got 11 minutes. He got in foul trouble, 4 fouls, 2 points. Now I don't know why with 4 fouls he couldn't have got played all the minutes in the fourth quarter. Let him play. So that was a little upsetting to me. Why he couldn't get more run. And D'Angelo Russell got 25 minutes. He fouled out. So Go figure. And I mean, I'm not sure if he's just pissed off at that he's coming off the bench, because he was a mess, just a mess. I did not throw my gavel on this slate because I ended up making some good money. So I was pretty calm. I had some nice. The only bad lineup I had was the one I threw in Chambers, which was my Kemba Walker lineup. Otherwise, my lineups did fairly well on like Tuesday, so I didn't have to get too upset. And also, I didn't have a ton of Russell, thank God. But he had, so in 25 minutes, 2 of 10 from the floor, 5 points. He fouled out, and he had 7 turnovers. So it was just, I mentioned it on a couple different podcasts. When he doesn't want to play, you can tell pretty early with him. He looks angry, like a misanthrope. He looks like a malcontent, not into the game. So I don't know how much is just Houston blitzed them, how much he's coming off the bench. It's just a bizarre situation. So he, like, going forward for the rest of the year, right now, Ingram, Randall, and Clarkson, and still Zubac, I guess, are going to be good plays. Russell, I still think he'll get it back together, but I'm not really sure what the hell is going on with him. For Houston, really no one came through for Houston except Trevor Ariza. I actually had some Ingram Ariza lineups that made some money for me, which was pretty remarkable. Ariza only played 28 minutes. He shot 7 of 9 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three-point range. He had 20 points, 4 steals, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, over 30 Fando points. For him, it's a minor miracle. Clint Capella in only 21 minutes was fine, but just didn't get enough minutes. James Harden only got 31 minutes. He was good. I mean, this is one of the games where he was okay in real life, but just DFS not even close to hitting value. Other big problem with him, and if you looked at his production after like the first, second quarter, you thought he was on pace for like 100 Fando points, but then it just didn't happen. I mean, 18 points and the turnovers again. I mean, this is the problem, with guys like Cheeto Face and Westbrook as well. When you're that expensive, every point does matter. And when Westbrook and Harden have games where they give you 8, 9, 10 turnovers, man, that really hurts. So Harden's 9 turnovers on this slate, it really offsets his 8. He had a triple-double, 18 points, 13 assists, 12 rebounds. If he wouldn't have had those 9 turnovers, he would have been around 55 Fando points or so, which would have been okay. Still not good enough on a 10-game slate, though. Other guy who was a dreamy lover, I don't know if you played him. I did not play him. That was Lou Williams. So Lou Williams, I think, had over 40 Fando points, played 32 minutes, 11 for 17 from the field, 7 of 9 from three-point range, 30 actual points, 2 steals, 7 assists. And that's the thing you can do. If Vegas does predict a blowout and you think a game is going to blow out, then you can take a chance on some bench players. So if you played a guy like Eric Gordon on this slate, that was fine. Lou Williams was fine. Even a Sam Decker did okay. Decker only got 19 minutes. This is the one thing with D'Antoni. He's really only playing 7 guys. It's really Eric Gordon and Lou Williams are the only 2 guys off the bench right now getting legitimate minutes. I mean, Houston won by 30-9, and Decker still only got 19 minutes. Harold's out of the rotation. Harold got 19 minutes, and Nene got 14. So it's just at the center position. It's a disaster right now for Houston. Other than that, let's see who else we got. I didn't even mention Ryan Anderson for Houston. I probably tried to block it out. I played him in one lineup. I mean, I think at this point, if you've been playing DFS, you know that Ryan Anderson can't shoot at home. It's just one of the most bizarre things in the world. I'm not sure why he can. So that is becoming a thing. He's still so cheap though. Where if you play a lot of tournaments, I don't care if you can throw him in a GPP. I mean, like one thing I told you, I think it's a bad strategy to engage in black and white thinking. So if even though we do have our sign saying I will not play John Lure, I think if you have a sign saying I'm not playing Ryan Anderson at home, you're basically going to be an idiot because one day he is going to go nuts at home. It's just going to happen. Other than that, I mentioned Jimmy Butler and Wade, just very disappointing in that Bulls-Memphis game, man. Then how about that Phoenix game, Devin Booker? So Devin Booker, without Bledsoe, he must have been loving life because he was shooting the ball. I mean, literally, the ball wasn't even in his hands, and he was putting up shots. And I had a lot of Booker on this slate, actually. He started the game 4 of 5 from the field, and I'm like, you know what? He's going to put up like 40 Fando points without Bledsoe. This is going to be fantastic. I'm going to win a car. I think I was top 50 in the slam on FanDuel, which, I think if you finish top 50 at it was a couple $100 or something like that, at least in that one contest. But then after Booker started 4 of 5, then I think he went the rest of the game. He shot 2 of 21. That's 2 of 21. I'm pretty sure all of us, me and all of you guys listening, we could step on an NBA court and if just stumbling and bumbling, make 2 out of 21 shots. So for the game, he shot 6 of 26, which is freaking abysmal. So if he just would have made 12 shots or something like that, man, could have been rolling around some money tonight. Could have had a big day tomorrow at Petco with the bailiff. But only making 6 of 26 shots, that's not going to be good enough. That's going to make you a dream killer. Dream lovers, Rondo was excellent. But the one good thing also about Rondo was a double dream lover because Rondo is still atrocious defensively, and so Mike Conley torched him. I think Conley ended up with around. They both ended up with around 45 FanDuel points. I mean, Conley had 27 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, down the stretch, him and Gasol. They didn't miss a freaking shot. I mean, Gasol was popping 3-pointers left and right. The Bulls just had no one to defend those two guys. Judi Dench, he really has been tremendous almost every game since All-Star break. Portland beat the Spurs. I did not play a ton of Lillard. God, I wish that one lineup I would have had Lillard over Kemba. That would have been nice. But Lillard was great. 36 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 rebounds. Kawhi was also Kawhi. I mean, if you voted Kawhi as MVP this year, if I could envision that. I think Harden's that Cheeto face is gonna win it. Westbrook will probably be 2, and Kawhi will probably be 3. But Kawhi, Kawhi's been phenomenal. 34 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. His usage rate is skyrocketing up, and it's phenomenal to watch. So he was a dream lover for sure. And I mentioned Paul George, 39 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 assists, just amazing. Willie Cauley-Stein, he's getting all the minutes in the world for the Kings, and he's been tremendous. 14 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, 4 steals. And the blocks and the steals, it's things like that. So he fills up that stat sheet. It's just glorious. Not to mention in the one season-long league I'm in the playoffs, and I have him in there. Got a late season waiver wire pickup, and he will lead me to glory there. Hopefully, I need him for blocks there. 2 things that make me sick is Amir Johnson and Greg Monroe were somewhat dream lovers. I saw them in the winning slam lineup. That makes me feel ill. I mentioned Rondo, 17 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. He was great for the Bulls, at least offensively. just Jimmy Butler. What's going on with Jimmy Butler? Someone from Chicago let me know. It's got to be his heel, right? He's got to be injured. He can't be a Tin Man. Goran Dragic basically was playing with a one eye, had 33 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals. Man, I played 0 Goran Dragic, so if you played him, congrats. Send me a screenshot. That ended up working out really well if you played him. Marquise Chris, because remember, if Bledsoe goes out, Bledsoe's got what's his usage rate? I think it was 28, 29%, something like that. So that opens up now shots for every other Phoenix guy. So if you took a chance on some Phoenix guys, you probably stumbled into some money because without Bledsoe, man, everyone else had good games. Warren had a good game. Chris had a good game. Booker got a lot of shots and didn't have a good game. Big Sauce Williams had a good game. So Phoenix guys are going to be fun to play the rest of the year. So Chris had 17 points, 5 blocks, 7 rebounds, 2 steals. And obviously, who's the biggest beneficiary without Bledsoe? That's right, 3'7" Tyler Ulis. So he got his first start. He had 13 points, 13 assists, 2 steals, 1 rebound, 1 freaking block in 39 minutes. So they're not playing Brandon Knight. I don't even know if that guy's still on the team. So Ulis is going to get all the run he can. His price is going to probably be skyrocket up on DraftKings pretty fast. Obviously, if you're still playing a season-long league, go pick him up. So he was great. Also, he took 16 shots. I think he shot really bad, but he could put up some monster lines. He's like a little version of Isaiah Thomas, which and I mean that a little version. I think he's smaller than Isaiah Thomas. And then Gravy Juice, I mentioned him. Big Sauce Williams had another double off the bench as well. There were lots of dream lovers. Man, if it wasn't for Kemba for me in that one lineup. All right, so where are we? So remember, I talked about it yesterday before we head into the injury news. These last 14, 15 games or whatever, it's difficult. It happened again today. Late scratches. Covington was a couple days ago. Bledsoe was today. Not surprising that it's happening to teams that are going to be in the lottery, teams that are tanking. So remember, one of my strategies is to attack the teams that are battling for playoff spots. Now, will that always work too? No, because look at the Hornets today. Kemba basically destroyed me. So it's not a fail-proof, fail-safe method. But for the rest of the season, I will be targeting, especially in cash games, and this just goes for the whole year as well. guys, teams with set rotations and teams who I know are going to get minutes. And that becomes harder and harder to do as the season goes on. So it's just part of playing DFS is going into it, especially if you're a tournament player. If you're taking a shot these days at playing guys on the Lakers, guys on Sacramento. By the way, I don't even think I mentioned, at One Big Haitian, Scal Lab, who I can't even say pronounce his name, the guy from the other guy from Sacramento, who he was obviously a dream lover. 30 minutes, 11 for 15 from the floor, 32 freaking points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals. Was he the minimum? I don't even know what his price was. I didn't play any of him. So if you played him, congrats. I mean, I think it's a little. I don't know. I need to figure out how to pronounce that. Is it La Bissiere? Anyway, but on Twitter he goes by at One Big Haitian. So tweet him, say good game. But he was also tremendous. But like I was saying though, I was saying, is if you're going to play teams like the Kings and Lakers and Phoenix, just know going into it, we don't know what they're going to do on a night-to-night basis. We don't know what the front office is thinking. We don't know who they want to play, which guys they want to give looks to. So wacky things are going to happen, and that's part of it. So that's why, if at this stage of the season, like one approach you can do, let's say normally you play like a $10 GPP every day. If you want to lower that and play maybe 2 $5 GPPs, that may be fine because then you can do 2 different lineups. And then you can have some, that way in case one of your lineups you get a late scratch, the other lineup maybe will be okay. And especially if you are going to target teams, which we all still want to target teams like Phoenix, right? Because they play at one of the fastest paces in the league. So that is one strategy you can do. That's something that I almost consider that instead of playing 4 or 5 lineups in the slam or whatever I did on Wednesday, I did think about, do I play like maybe 10, 15 lineups in the rebound or a different contest? So that is one different approach you can do. Because remember, if you're a tournament player, the more lineups you have, the better your chances of taking down a tournament ultimately. All right, so injury news for Thursday. Damari Carroll for Toronto, sore left ankle. Norman Powell seems to be the biggest beneficiary there for Toronto, I think. We can talk a little bit more about that when we get into the plays. Rodney Hood has just crushed my soul so many times this year. He's questionable with the right knee. I would not expect him to play. Derek Favors out with the bone bruise still. So on this set, remember, this slate's a 5-game slate, and the slate dictates what we do. No, it's a 6-game slate. So, we're not in New York. We're not in LA. We're in like, a city like Salt Lake City. Maybe we're in Utah, like a very nice city, but not tons of options, but still some decent options. But I think on this slate, some Utah guys are going to be in play. Porzingis has a left thigh contusion. I'm not sure why with any contusion you would be out, but it looks like he's doubtful. I think, is he doubtful or questionable? At least according to Basketball Monster, he's doubtful, so that's not a good sign. So frickin' Melo sees a monster bump. And the criminal Derrick Rose, God, I hate playing those guys. For Brooklyn, Sean Kilpatrick is out with a hamstring. For Denver, Wilson Chandler is going to be out. For the Clippers, did I even mention the Clippers being dream killers? Chris Paul was an absolute freaking dream killer. Blake was a dream killer. The Clippers did an absolute no-show. They lost to the Bucks, a disgraceful loss. And I think it was it at I can't remember if it was in LA or was it in Milwaukee. I thought it was in LA. No, I need to check. Yeah, it was in LA. It was just a horrible, sickening loss. Like you can attack Bucks bigs. How does Blake Griffin play 37 minutes and only put up 18 points, only take 12 shots also, by the way? Chris Paul played 36 minutes, shot 2 of 10, 6 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. So he was dirt cheap across the industry, and he did not pay off his salary at all. Absolute soul crusher if you played Chris Paul. Wow, just a disgusting effort by the Clippers. Nice win by the Bucks, by the way, who are battling for a playoff spot. That's what I mean, battling for playoff spots. Now, granted, does any of the Bucks hit value? Not. The only guy did is Brogdon if you had the guts to play him. But that was a nice win for them. And I guess Greg Monroe. Fucking Clippers. Anyway, so on this day, though, so after the game, though, it did come out where the Clippers are going to rest Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan on Thursday. So God forbid. I mean, Most Spates, is that who we're gonna have to play? I don't even who else is on the Clippers roster? What other big men are even there? I mean, I'm gonna have to look at their freaking roster now. So that's going to be interesting because we're gonna have to play someone from the Clip. I mean, that's value. There's gonna be a lot of value opening up. So, and Chris Paul's usage rate is gonna go through the roof. So maybe he can have a nice bounce back on this slate. The Clippers are battling for like the 4 seed. So it's a weird thing to rest Blake and DeAndre here, but whatever. Especially coming off a bad loss. Gallinari's out with a bone bruise, so Wilson Chandler will be a really good play. All right, let's take a little flight to Vegas, shall we? So not really a ton of great over-unders. You got 2 good ones. Brooklyn, New York. So two of the worst teams in the NBA. That's right. The Knicks are one of the worst teams in the NBA. A 221 over-under. The Knicks are only favored by 3.5, and that tells you everything you need to know. So the Knicks are at home, and they're only favored by 3.5 against Brooklyn. So a sickening game in real life, but fantasy gold here potentially. The one issue that we always have with Brooklyn is, right, Coach Atkinson plays everyone equal minutes. So, I mean, LeVert and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson seem like they'll be really good players one day, but they just don't ever get more than 26 minutes. They're still cheap, so we can play them. They're probably going to be in play on this slate, but it's tough to love anyone from Brooklyn. You know, Jeremy Lin's been okay lately. With Kilpatrick out, I'm not sure who that benefits the most. I don't really want to play Randy frickin' Foye. And then for the Knicks, yeah, Melo and Rose and Hernan Gomez. Hernan Gomez will be a good play. And I guess for Brooklyn, Brook Lopez. Other juicy game is Clippers-Denver. I'm surprised there's already a lineup. So it's a 224 over-under here, and Denver's favored by 1 point, and that's with Blake and DeAndre being out. Now, I think that line is accounting for it. I'm not positive, but you know that's what I'm looking at the Vegas site right now. So yeah, 224 over under. That's the highest over under on this slate, and obviously this is a game we have to attack. So with Gallo out, I mean, man, Jokic obviously an elite play. Is Mo Spates going to defend him? I mean, I'm trying to pull up the Clippers freaking roster right now to figure out who the hell is going to be guarding Jokic. I mean, you can't put Mo Spates on Jokic. Jokic would score 1,000 points. He'd become Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, oh my God, is it Brandon Bass? It could be Brandon Bass night for the Clippers, and that is just going to be painful. Brandon Bass is a big body. He plays hard. Yeah, I guess I could see him getting big minutes. So, we'll follow the news, and we'll wait and see. You can tweet at me tomorrow and let me know my thoughts exactly on more on the Clippers guys. But look, if Brandon Bass gets 24 minutes, he's going to be the minimum. I think he won me a GPP like 2 years ago. So he does. He's an okay basketball player. Granted, has he played at all this year? I don't know, but he is on the Clippers roster. Then you have Orlando Golden State 218 over under. Golden State's favored by 13 points. Golden State's been a mess without Durant. They barely beat Philly the other night. I don't know. In theory, Golden State should blow out Orlando, but God only knows at this point. So for me, I guess it's going to be a tournament only. I will use the Warriors in tournaments only. But still, I will have exposure to this game. And the Orlando guys, if they can stay close, those Orlando guys like Fournier, like Aaron Gordon, like even our boy Terrence Ross, Elfrid Payton, who's been excellent, and Vucevic, all those guys are going to be in play on this slate. They're playing way up in pace. They all could put up big lines. So for tournaments, I like stacking that game, and I like a lot of the Orlando guys. Then you got some nasty games. You got Utah, Cleveland, a 208 over under. The one thing about Cleveland, they play zero defense right now. So I've been attacking LeBron James on defense. I don't know. It feels like for at least a month or two now, and that is the reason why he can play 40 minutes a night, because he's only playing one end of the court. He doesn't try hard on defense at all. It's been pretty interesting to watch. I mean, I've seen him occasionally, like late in the fourth quarter, exert some effort and some energy on the defensive end. But for the most part, defensively, he's non-existent. So Gordon Hayward, to me, is in an elite spot. I have not played a lot of Gordon Hayward this year because he has zero ceiling for the most part. Also, though, Favors is out. So Gordon Hayward, to me, on this slate, he could be a really good play. Could I envision Gordon Hayward being in some winning lineups? Yep, I could. OKC, Toronto, 208 over-under. Toronto's only a 2-point favorite. So not a great game, but obviously Westbrook that'll be the most important decision we have to make off the bat. Do we play Westbrook or do we not? Then you got Memphis, Atlanta, 202 over-under. Atlanta's a 3-point favorite here. So Memphis, tough game against the Bulls on a back-to-back. I'm always worried about playing Memphis on back-to-back, especially when Conley and Gasol, they're both old and they're both broken down. They're both questionable every game. So their minutes worry me a little bit. So I don't know if I can consider them for anyone. I think if there's one game I would fade in cash, it probably would be that Memphis-Atlanta game. All right, let's hop into the plays. The top plays at each position. I mean, like, how fun of a show would it be for you guys if I just said, man, I made great picks yesterday. I'm just such a great DFS player. All you commoners out there, yeah, man, you should just bow down at my knees. Oh, God, can you believe how great my pick was when I told you to play Tyler Ulis? I knew Bledsoe was going to be out. I knew it. I just knew it all along. Going into the slate, man, I took second in the slam. I won $8 million. Yes, I'm great. I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, anyway, all right, let's hop into the plays. So Westbrook, man, this price, he's 13.5K. The last two games, he's had 69 and 70 FanDuel points against Brooklyn and Utah. So he put up 70 against Utah, which is pretty phenomenal, man. Now, if it's a 10-game slate, I'd probably be pretty positive that he would not be in the winning GPP lineup. On a 5-6 game slate, then more nights than not, he has been in the winning lineup. Granted, now this is expensive. So it's Westbrook. You always can do it. He's always a good play. Lowry's a good defender, and Lowry's out. So Corey Joseph trying to guard him, I'm not sure who they're going to put on him. DeMar Carroll, they could put on him, but I think he's questionable, might not play. So maybe they put PJ Tucker on him off the bench. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. But like I'm not a huge fan. I mean, obviously I will play a lot of Westbrook, but it's not an elite position for him. It's just an elite position because it's Russell frickin' Westbrook. But I mean, is he going to give you? He needs to give you like 65, 70 FanDuel points now. Like, so yeah. I need to sleep. I need to sleep on that to figure out if I want him like in my cash games. And point guard is always loaded. So do you need to do it in like a cash game or in a tournament? No, you don't need to. But if you're a tournament player and you fade Westbrook completely, probably a dumb move. Steph Curry, 10.1K. The thing without Durant, I mean, Curry's jacking up shots. He's taking like 25 shots a night. He just can't make them right now. So he's a pretty safe play. I think his floor right now is around 40 FanDuel points without Durant. And if he can just make some freaking shots, like, could he get close to Westbrook? Like, would it shock me if Curry ends up with like 55 FanDuel points and Westbrook's right around the 55, 60? Not really. And then Curry's 3.4K cheaper. So to me, Curry, I think is safe. I do think is safe for all formats. If it was a 10-game slate, I would not want a Curry in cash games. But because his usage rate is so high right now, I do think you can do it. For most people are going to do tournaments only, and I get it. But to me, Steph Curry at that price, because of the usage rate, yeah, I'm a fan. There's only 15 games left, and he's going to win somebody, either me or one of you guys listening out there, a GVP in the next week, I think. Chris Paul, 9.8K. So he just soul crusher on Wednesday, 18 FanDuel points. And against Utah, he was tremendous. So against Utah, he puts up 52, and then the Bucks again only 19 FanDuel points. I told you on yesterday's pod, the Bucks are a tough team to attack at the point guard position. They do play really slow, but Chris Paul is relatively matchup proof. Now he's playing way up pace against Denver. No Blake, no DeAndre. He's going to see a massive usage bump. I mean, it's hard to envision how he cannot give me a floor of 40 FanDuel points. As long as he's going to play, and they're going to try, and the Clippers try to win this game, I think he's out of him and Steph Curry. He might be the safer cash game play, and Curry would, maybe has some more upside for tournaments. But Chris Paul, I think he's safe for all formats. And plus, like, you guys know me, right? I have a spreadsheet. It's titled Recency Bias, and I list all the stars or really good players coming off of bad games. who's the number one guy I have listed right now? Chris Paul. So will I be playing a lot of him on this slate? Way up in pace against Denver? I will. Also, no one tweeted me back. Is he fat or not? Can someone answer me that? Is he out of shape? He looks so chunky on the court. He like waddles up and down the court. He can't really run very fast. Have you ever seen Chris Paul sprint? I haven't. I've never seen him sprint up the court. He waddles. Kyrie Irving. So Kyrie gets Utah 9.1K. So I prefer I prefer Steph and I prefer Chris Paul over Kyrie because Kyrie's expensive and that's Utah. That is how you take down tournaments though. You get a guy. Kyrie's going to be overlooked, underowned. We've seen guys. I just mentioned Chris Paul destroyed Utah a couple nights ago. Elfrid Payton destroyed Utah. Zach LaVine a couple months ago destroyed Utah. And Utah's banged up, so you can attack them at the point guard position. And George Hill is playing with a big knot in his foot. So Kyrie for tournaments is totally fine. Mike Conley. So Conley was so good on Wednesday, and now he gets Dennis Schroeder defense. He goes from Rondo to Dennis Schroeder. Maybe the two worst point guards next to Isaiah Thomas defensively in the NBA. So I like Conley again. The one thing is I'm not a fan of playing Conley on back-to-backs. So that worries me a little bit. That might make him a tournament-only play. But, man, Dennis Schroeder defense is enticing. The price is very fair. Memphis has two players. If you watch them play, I don't know how they win games. It's Conley and Gasol. That's it. So, to me, I'm going to say save for all formats. That's how bad Dennis Schroeder defense is. Speaking of Dennis Schroeder, 7.4K. The thing about him lately, he's been really good. As bad as his defense is, offensively, he's been great for Atlanta. He's the last week, ever since he got benched, basically against Golden State for getting in a fight with Dwight on the court, and then leaving Steph Curry open for a wide open three. And even in that game, he was excellent. It was just he got benched. He's been like between 35 and 42 FanDuel points, so he's expensive. He's 7.4K. And I'm still not going to do it against for cash games because it's now he also is playing Memphis, so that's the ugliest game of the night. But in tournaments, can you do it? Yeah. And Mike Conley defense is not as good as you may think. I mean, Rondo torched him on Wednesday. So as good as Conley's been and can be offensively, and even Conley's, I looked at his the analytics for defensively. He's not elite defensively. Elfrid Payton, 7.2K. I love it. He's still at Magic Mountain, but he used to be like the first guy in line, with Bledsoe. Right now, I think Wiggins is the guy who's basically the first guy in line. Now he's like heading towards the end of the line. He wants to leave Magic Mountain. He doesn't even want to be going on roller coasters anymore. That's how good he's been. Last like week and a half or so. So 7.2K, and now he gets Steph Curry defense. I mean, Steph Curry defense that's bad defense too. If I had to rate the worst defenders in the NBA, at the point guard position, Curry would be in the top 10 in terms of the worst. Is he as bad as like Isaiah Thomas and Schroeder? Maybe not as bad as those guys, but he's close. So Elfrid Payton, elite spot. Orlando playing up in pace. Yeah, and then if I play Elfrid Payton, remember Payton's he could get a triple double. So if I play him, he's going to get 10 assists, and I need to probably correlate and use another Orlando guy as well. And if you're playing him, you hope the Orlando game stays close. So it makes sense. If you play him, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to play only one Orlando guy. I'd probably play, if I do have a lineup, I'd play one or two, maybe even three. Although I know we're all sick of playing Orlando guys. The criminal himself, Derrick Rose, he's gone up to 6.8K. It's very confusing what to do with Rose because Hornacek, he plays him 39 minutes and then he goes back to 27. He'll let him play the whole fourth quarter, then he'll bench him for a fourth quarter for a guy you've never even heard of. So I'm still steaming off of like the game against Detroit where he played 27 minutes and got benched the entire fourth quarter for literally a guy who was in the D League like 2 days ago. So do I want to pay 6.8K? No, I don't. But I also do like attacking Brooklyn guys. So Rose has been a relatively decent cash game play the last couple of weeks. He's basically been giving you around 30 FanDuel points. He doesn't have much of a ceiling. But against Brooklyn, could he get it going? Sure. So I mean, I don't hate the play. If it was a 10-game slate, I wouldn't be a big fan. But on a 6-game slate, it's fine. I mean, I'll put on my prison suit. If I have 10 lineups, I'd probably play him in like maybe 2. George Hill. So Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is another guy you could throw in there with Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Schroeder. He's an atrocious defender. So George Hill, not a cash game guy for me because he's dealing with these injuries. But for tournaments, yeah, I mean, I like a lot of these Utah guys because right now Utah's playing up in pace. Cleveland does not play any defense. So I think guys like George Hill and Gordon Hayward, they're going to be nice tournament plays. Hayward's probably safe for cash. Jeremy Lin, 5.9K. So he gets the Knicks. I played him against the Knicks a couple nights ago. He got off to a really bad start, and then he came back and had 25 FanDuel points. So he's basically – that seems to be his floor these days. And that's fine for that price. That's a decent floor to have. Last game he had probably one of his best games of the year against OKC, 35 FanDuel points. The problem is he's still not seeing above 26, 27 minutes. Even if he gets that, though, against the Knicks, he should get around 30. And is that enough to take down a tournament? I don't know. That's where I'm not sure yet if he's truly a tournament player. Is he fine for cash games? I think he is. But tournaments, not sure. If you're only getting 26 minutes and you're 6K, that's like a borderline tournament play on a 6-game slate. 10-game slate, no way. Corey Joseph, 4.8K. So Joseph, the last couple games let me down. 15 and 9 minutes, or 15 and 9 FanDuel points. But that was not a fraud. That was not a Freudian slip, because the minutes have been down, 26 minutes and 22 minutes the last 2 games. So that's a concern for me. So I'm concerned that other guys for Toronto are going to get more run. Guys like Norman Powell. Norman Powell has seen 31 and 35 minutes the last 2 games. So and Powell's a shooting guard, though, by the way, not a point guard. So Corey Joseph, to me, at this point, can only be a tournament play. Other than that, Jamal Murray, also mentioned him for Denver. While Jameer Nelson is going to play and start, Jamal Murray, man, when he gets it going, he can shoot the ball, shoot the lights out, and he's not shy about shooting. So he's a tournament play for me. All right, shooting guard. Some water, man. My lips are not as chapped, but again, it was still freezing cold. I don't know wherever you guys are living, but man, it was 22 degrees in New York today, and the wind was horrendous again. I'm just, man, what is the deal with this? I'm pretty sure this is the coldest it's been all winter in New York, and it's the middle of March. That's not, that's something's not, that's not right. I object to all of that. I need to move. I need to move to a warm weather place. I decided when I'm 45 years old, I'm going to move to a warm weather climate. So I have like 21 years. All right, shooting guard. So DeMar DeRozan, I don't know. I'm not excited to play him. He's still fine. He's still putting up tons of shots. He's been okay. 9.3K. It's a fair price. I don't hate it. I think it's a relatively safe play for cash against OKC. He's gonna get Oladipo defense. Oladipo doesn't get the ball offensively, so he expends all his energy on the defensive end. There's I'm probably gonna go mostly value routes at shooting guard, but if I play 10 lineups, I'd have DeMar and probably 2 of them. Again, at 9.3K, just not a huge ceiling because he is such a one-trick pony. He's got to score like 45 actual points. Klay Thompson, Klay and Steph are basically the same to me right now. I think they're close to being safe for all formats because they're taking over. Steph's taking like 25 shots a game. Klay's taking like 22. That's a lot of freaking shots, and like half of those are 3-pointers. So if they get it going, and Orlando can struggle defending the 3-point line, they could both have big nights. So the blowout's a concern, obviously, but Klay to me is a good tournament play. Oladipo 6K. I just don't do it because he doesn't see the ball enough. So what's his ceiling? He's been good the last 3 games. He's been like 30 FanDuel points, but that's about his max. I mean, he's got to ask Russ for the ball. Gary Harris 5.9K. I always struggle with Gary Harris if he's obviously he's fine for tournaments. I don't know what to do with him in cash games. I always waver on him. So quite honestly, man, because Gary Harris's price has come up a little bit, so he's fine. Yeah, I guess he's safe for all formats. I just get a little queasy because he's cost me a lot of money this year, so I'm just biased. That's one guy you can't just don't trust. Whenever I mention Gary Harris, don't trust the judge. Do the opposite of what I say with Gary Harris. So I'll say safe for all formats. Oladipo might be a little safer in cash, and Harris might be a better tournament play. Tim Hardaway Jr. tournaments only against Memphis. Oh God, that could be a disaster, or he could go nuts. I mean, who knows? Tim Hardaway Jr. Evan Fournier. He's still stumbling around this 5.5K mark every game. He struggles and gets 25 fandom points. It's just every game. It's been that way for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. It's unbelievable. I don't know. The last game he finally made some shots, but then he gets 0 assists, 0 blocks, 1 steal, a couple. He just doesn't fill up the stat sheet. So he's becoming too scoring dependent. But that price is very fair, and he's playing up in pace. So to me, he's a good cash game play at that price. I mean, if he gets to 25 fandom points, that's fine for a cash game. Now, and also the fact that he's playing up in pace against Golden State, that makes him a tournament play for this slate. But just based on his past couple weeks, he has not been a good tournament play. Will Barton, that's always a good tournament play. He's him and Andrew Wiggins, Magic Mountain. He could give you 8 fandom points or 30 fandom points. This Clippers-Denver game is intriguing. And remember, without Gallo, I mean, both sides are banged up. Or not banged up. The Clippers are without Blake and without DeAndre. And then Denver is probably without Gallo. And I think Fareed's still out and Darrell Arthur is still out. So there's some shots that are going to be opening up. So Will Barton, yeah, 5.3K, that's fine. Then you got Courtney Lee, fine for cash games. I mean, the Knicks are still trying to win games, I think. So he's going to get you around 20, 25 fandom points. LeVert, I love LeVert. One reason I keep watching Brooklyn games is because I like watching LeVert play, man. He's super athletic. He's just fun to watch. The problem is he just gets 22, 23 minutes, and you want to pull your hair out. So his ceiling is like 30 fandom points. That's like his max. The thing is at 4.4K, that's probably good enough. And right now his floor, that's the problem. The floor can be pulled out of your, pulled basically right out of your house or apartment. So it's hard to recommend him for cash games. But if you play tournaments, I think he's fine, because if he gives you close to 28 to 30 fandom points, could he be in a winning GPP lineup? Yep, he could be. At that price, he could be. And then it allows you to, spend up at another spot. I mentioned Norman Powell. I really do like Powell. If Carroll's out, even if Carroll plays, I need to look into this more and see if Powell was getting the minutes because of Carroll was out, and is Toronto going small, or was it more the benching Corey Joseph? So either way, though, Powell's minutes, he's another guy not afraid to shoot. So at 4.1K, yeah, that plays fine. Maybe not for cash, but tournaments absolutely. Small forward, LeBron. So they lowered LeBron's price, which is good because he's playing in Utah. Also, he's had 2 kind of subpar games against Detroit and Houston. It was in the 40s. LeBron's matchup proof. So to me, could you play LeBron and Gordon Hayward as your 2 small forwards? Sure. So I don't have an issue playing LeBron. Is it an elite spot, though? No, it's not. Carmelo, man, they jacked up Carmelo's price, 8.4K. That's pretty sickening. The Knicks did just play Brooklyn. So he had 39 fandom points against Brooklyn. The other night, I think that was the night he took 26 shots. Carmelo still thinks it's 2008. So he still thinks he's like a top 5 NBA player, and Porzingis is going to be out. So he's going to shoot every time he's he gets the ball. I can't wait. I hope the Knicks shut him down soon, like Phoenix did to Bledsoe. There's no reason Melo should be playing. So he's fine. You can save 2.1K from LeBron. To me, that's a little expensive for Melo, because at that price, he's got to get me like 30 actual points, maybe even more. I mean, I guess Melo can get you some rebounds too, so he's not only a one-trick pony. He's like a 2-trick pony. But I don't love it at that price. I just don't. And unfortunately, like my one of my sites is down, so I can't see what his price is on DraftKings right now. I'm not sure if he was like 7.6K, then I'd be very excited to play Carmelo. 8.4K, nah. I'll still have exposure though. But Gordon Hayward, 7.8K, getting LeBron defense. To me, really good spot for Gordon Hayward. He's not been much of a tournament guy. He's been a really good cash game play, consistent. This could be a slate where he's in a winning GPP lineup. If I build a roster, I would have the same lineup, and I'd play Carmelo in one and Gordon Hayward in the other. It's tough to if I had to choose between those two, man, on this slate, both of them in elite spots. That's tough, man. I mean, oh God, I'm torn. I think I would go Gordon Hayward a little bit over Melo, just because I think Gordon Hayward's going to also get you some assists. without favors, but man, it's close. Yeah, that's close. Well, other than that, it dropped. Small forward drops fast after that. First of all, I don't know why it says FanDuel says Wilson Chandler's out. Is he out? Wow, yeah, Wilson. Why did Basketball Monster not tell me that? Man, so Wilson Chandler's out for Thursday as well. Now that changes everything. So yeah, if shame on you, Basketball. I love Basketball Monster. They're super good. I don't know why they didn't also list Chandler out. Man, so with Chandler out for Denver, this means Mason Plumlee's probably going to start at power forward. He becomes an excellent play. Also, Hernan Gomez is probably going to get some decent minutes. So Hernan Gomez is going to be in play. And then I do think now guys like Gary Harris, he should be fine for cash. And a Will Barton becomes an elite tournament play. I mean, all the value now in the world is open up for Denver. And even a guy like Jamal Murray as well, because they need to score. So without Chandler and Gallinari, both those guys out, man, this Clippers-Denver game, lots of value, lots of fantasy gold now. With Jordan and Blake resting for the Clippers and Gallo and Chandler out for Denver. But after that, small forward gets ugly fast. So you have Iguodala, who I just don't play ever. I just never, ever, 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 ever have any desire to ever play him. Never, ever, never, ever. Ever, never, ever. Is it ever or never? Whatever. Both. Never play him. Roch will probably go off for like 40 Phantom points. Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson. Everything I said about LeVert, same thing about Hollis-Jefferson. I love watching him play. That's why I watch Brooklyn games now. The minutes are going to be 22, 24, 26. That's about it. But at 4.3K, 4.4K, he could put up 30, and that's enough. That is enough to win a tournament on a 6-game slate. It really is. So you can do it in a tournament. Other than that, wow, small forward. Terrence Ross is 4.1K, so his price is going down. He's still getting 30 minutes a night. Honestly, if he just makes some shots, if he hits 4 3-pointers, he basically hits value this day right now. So to me on this slate, elite tournament play. I am intrigued by PJ Tucker because I could see Toronto using him against Westbrook, but the minutes have not been there lately. Power forward, Jokic could be the top play on the slate. Not sure. The Clippers have no one to defend him. He only played 24 minutes against the Lakers because they blew them out. Yeah, Jokic fine for all formats. If you have the money, fit him in. God, I'm trying to imagine like Brandon Bass guarding Jokic. Most Bates, they can't even attempt to put most Bates on Jokic. I mean, they're going to put up Mbah Moute on Jokic. Who's going to guard Jokic? Chris Paul? I just don't know who's going to guard him. Blake Griffin. So Blake's price got jacked up because he's playing Denver, and now he's being rested. So I don't even know why I mentioned his name. F you, Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin is slowly becoming on my list of guys who's cost me the most money this year. I mean, and he sat out a lot of the year because he was injured. Andre Drummond is far and away number 1. Draymond Green, 8.3K, coming off the monster game. If you want to chase that, go ahead. Whatever. Tournaments for me. Tournaments only for me. Paul Millsap, he gets Memphis. Millsap, to me, is a cash game only play. He does not have the upside. I just can never envision him being in a winning tournament lineup. Ibaka, 6K. The last 2 games for him have been abysmal. Toronto's a mess right now. They need Lowry. If anything, I mean, with watching Toronto, I mean, you see how much Lowry means to that team. Because I bet you if DeMar was out, Toronto could still be winning games because Lowry's that good, and Lowry could get other guys involved. DeMar doesn't make a single player better on that team. Ibaka at 6K. You get tournaments only. Big fat squeaky Zach Randolph. Whatever. I mean, he stumbles his way to around 25 Vandal points. To me, cash game play only. I don't really want to do that in tournaments. Aaron Gordon. The next 2 guys, Aaron Gordon and Enes Kanter. Both those guys are tournament plays. Aaron Gordon to be safe for all formats because he's a cash game play anyway these days. He's been giving you right around 25 Vandal points. Him and Evan Fournier have been disgusting to roster if you've been playing tournaments, but they've been really safe cash game plays. So now Orlando playing way up in pace, all those extra possessions, Aaron Gordon should thrive in a fast tempo game. So yeah, to me, I mean, Draymond Green defense worries me a little bit, but Aaron Gordon to me should be is in a good spot. Enes Kanter, tournaments only. You can't do it for cash because he plays 18 minutes a game, most nights. But even with that, he's a fantasy point per minute monster. So if God forbid he does get 24, 26 minutes, he could put up 35, 40 Fandom points. I'm always perplexed. I wish I could talk to like Coach Donovan and ask why he won't give Kanter more minutes, because I really do think you can make the case for a guy is so skilled offensively that his defensive liabilities, it still makes him worth having. It still makes sense to have him on the court, even though he does have defensive liabilities. And I think Kanter's one of those guys because Westbrook needs help scoring. Just sometimes OKC, they need help scoring the ball. I mean, Kanter, that's what he can do. And you can play Adams and Kanter together and let Adams can cover for Kanter defensively. I don't get it. Then again, I'm not an NBA coach. I'm just an idiot doing a podcast at 5:30 in the morning. Other than that, you have Trevor Booker. He's still bumbling, stumbling, and fumbling his way in Brooklyn. Tournaments only, though. The minutes are always an issue because it's Brooklyn. Taj Gibson, he's dirt cheap. He's 4.2K. I don't know what to say about that. He's usually only a cash game guy, but he's so cheap on this slate. If you want to use him a little bit, I guess it's okay. French Fry, you can always play some French Fries. He has not been good lately. Cleveland plays based on matchup if they want to play Richard Jefferson or Channing Frye. I'm not sure. I mean, if Derek Favors was playing, I would think Channing Frye would start and get some big minutes. But with Favors out, I'm not sure how many minutes Channing Frye is going to get. I mentioned Hernan Gomez. He's 3.6K. He got 19 minutes last game, 20 Fando points. So without Chandler and Gallo, he's in play for me at that price. Yeah, why not? All right, center. Rudy Gobert. I played Gobert on Wednesday. I think he was in actually some of my best lineups. He only had 34 Fando points against sleepy Andre Drummond. It's a shame, too, because I watched some of that game, and he was great. But he is one of the players, obviously, because he's so good defensively, where just sometimes he's one of the players who are better in real life than he is in fantasy. Also, what really hurt is he only had 9 actual rebounds. He was everywhere defensively, but, man, sometimes the ball just wouldn't bounce his way for some of the rebounds. And it was a shame. He had 5 assists. He had 4 blocks. Against Sleepy Drummond, I was expecting him to get 15, 20 rebounds, and then he would have had 45 Fando points. He had 34 Fando points. And it was still fine. Other thing was, I think I tweeted out his ownership. Now it's late, so I'm not sure if this is even correct. I'm pretty sure he was less than 1% owned. Less than 1% owned against Sleepy Drummond. Man, like some of the ownerships are pretty crazy. So no one ever plays him. I think on this slate, it's 6 games, not 10. But Cleveland cannot rebound the ball. So again, to me, Gobert, I'll play him again. Gosh darn it. Marc Gasol, the back-to-back worries me here, but he was so good on Wednesday. 47 Fando points against the Bulls. Him and Conley single-handedly beat those two. Yeah, to me, not much upside at that price, but he's fine. Another guy who's usually under-owned. Now he's not as low-owned as Rudy Gobert, but another guy he's always less than 10% owned. On this slate, though, there's no Towns, there's no Cousins, no Whiteside. So, some of these guys who are normally low-owned are going to be higher than normal. Vucevic, 7.7K. Against Golden State has no big guys. Zaza's a mess. Zaza's 75 years old and can't move. Honestly, if I had let's not use me. It's a stupid example. I'm trying to think of who's someone slow in the NBA. Who's a slow center? I don't know. I can't even come to me right now. But anyway, I'm trying to think of Zaza. If Zaza was in a foot race with someone, and just in terms of his lateral quickness, his overall athleticism at this point in his career, not that he ever was athletic, it's just non-existent. He tries hard, but Vucevic is so supremely offensively skilled that if he can play 32 minutes, which he should, I wish he would get more. he could have a monster line. Now, he'll be somewhat chalkish on this slate, but Vucevic to me is an elite play, safe for all formats. Brook Lopez, yeah, against the Knicks, he's fine. He's $7K. It's a fair price. He's only going to get 32 minutes. He's basically been giving you around 35 FanDuel points. Again, not a guy with a big ceiling. He doesn't play more than 30 minutes because, God forbid, Atkinson could play anyone that many minutes. But we do attack Knicks centers. It is only a 6-game slate, so he's fine. Hernan Gomez is 6K against Brooklyn. And, yeah, he's probably – I mean, with Porzingis out, he's probably going to start. And which probably will make him an elite play, and it's probably going to make him a chalk play. And you're probably going to see the ownership levels and see him crazy high owned and want to throw up. But him against Brook Lopez, he should grab every rebound in sight. He's also very skilled offensively, so he's going to make going to get some assists, get some blocks, get some actual points, and he had 42 FanDuel points last game. So they jacked up his price, but to me, safe for all formats against Brooklyn. Mason Plumlee, I like this play too. Right now they're starting Jokic and Plumlee. Plumlee's had 2 straight games, 35 FanDuel points. As long as Chandler and Gallo are out, safe for all formats. He really is. Other than that, I mean, I wish I could play my boy Valanciunas, but unfortunately Dwayne Casey hates his guts. I mean, man, he played 23 minutes against Dallas at 32 FanDuel points. He's so good, but Dwayne Casey just hates his freaking guts. It's a shame. It really is. Because, I mean, I'm telling you, man, he's going to go to a different team next year. I hope Toronto trades him, and he's going to smash. And I can't wait till he comes back to Toronto and puts up like 50 actual points against Toronto and then punches Dwayne Casey in the face. I don't want to play the Trisket against Utah. Steven Adams. If anyone could tell me, my favorite podcast. By the way, there's only one episode left of Missing Richard Simmons. After that leaves? What am I going to do? I need a new podcast. So sad. Man, this podcast is so good. It's so riveting. Honestly, maybe I'm going to go look for Richard Simmons. Once the offseason hits, I want to find him. Is he okay? It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, the guy was so charismatic. He has such empathy, and he just vanishes off the face of the earth. I just don't get it. Where is he? Now take everything I just said right there, apply it to Steven Adams. Now I don't know if Steven Adams has a lot of empathy, but he's been a disaster. He can't rebound the ball lately. He's become now. Earlier in the year, he had this big wrap on his hand, and I called him Edward Scissorhands. Is like something happening with his hands again? Is he wearing that big wrap because he can't grab a rebound? And obviously, he's not going to score points with Westbrook. Like he was such an excellent pick and roll player. Like in the playoffs last year. I don't know what happened. 5.2K. I'm stubborn as hell. So in tournaments, I will still use him again on this slate, but it's hard to recommend playing him right now. That's about it. That's the slate. All right, we got through it, man. This is a fun little 6-game slate. So for Thursday, this should be fun. I mean, normally Thursday you only get 3 games, and you guys are tweeting me, about the backup center on the Nuggets or on the Knicks or whatever. This game with this slate with 6 games, you got some decent options at each position. So those should be fun. All right, any questions? Tweet at me at Daniel A Green 1. Remember, write some new reviews on iTunes. Be clever, be creative. When I tweet out the show, do the judge a freaking favor and retweet it. It's 5:30 in the morning. If I'm doing these shows, the least you guys can do, right, is write some reviews. Write some retweets, hit some retweets. Man. Otherwise, I'll be gone, and you'll be forced to listen to Roto Trash. I don't know. Do you guys want that? Maybe that's what you want. Maybe that's what you want. I don't know. Anyway, that's it. I gotta go make sure the bailiff's okay. He's been giving me like some weird stink eye last 10 minutes of the show. I've been hard to focus. Anyway, that's the show. Be back tomorrow for a glorious Friday show. Man, this is a long week. But Wednesday was good. Made some money. Hopefully you guys made some money too. Let's keep it going for Thursday. For me and the bailiff, court is adjourned.